Boo. Hey, hey, hey. Oh, fetching the video stream. Oh, I think we're just about ready. Oh, video feedback is happening. It's all crazy. Oh my god, it's feeding back, it's looping. We're going down the rabbit hole. Intense, intense craziness. Wow, wow, wow. Okay, so check it out. This is going to be a weekly download. I had a few people in the producer DJ club that I run ask me about audio editing. So I cover this in some of my workshops, but I think it was worth doing a weekly download about this specifically because it's pretty much like the fundamental skill to know, you know? So when I was first starting out, oh my God, sorry, fucking streaming. God, it's always such a fucking crazy thing. Okay, all right, so everything's running now. I think this is all good. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I should plug the class. Just a moment. Okay. So, for those of you who are watching right now live, if you go very quickly to the link that I've just posted into the Facebook chat, there are I think there's like 2 or 3 spots left for the workshop that I'm teaching in 1 hour at 10. And that's an actual class with, like there's like PowerPoint slides and shit that I made, and it's pretty fun. So that is, yeah, if you go to that, I pinned the comment in the Facebook chat, and then here I'll paste it over onto YouTube for you guys. Oh, wait, hang on, it's not letting me. Just a minute. I'm going to switch accounts over on YouTube so that I can paste it into the chat. There we go. Okay. Oh, my voice is quiet. Yeah, just a second. Thank you. All right. Thanks, Nathan. I appreciate that. Yeah, I had the mic down a bit last night. There we go. All right. So, yeah, definitely get in there, register for the free Ableton workshop I'm doing in an hour because I worked really hard on that shit. It's like the old methodology workshops, but with PowerPoint slides, and it's much more clearly explained. So, yeah, get in there. All right, so one of the things that I teach people when they're like, what is the thing that I need to learn to start making music? Like, I don't, like, what is the fundamental skill? The fundamental skill is audio editing and understanding how to cut and paste and move and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Just how to get fast at audio editing and how to work with clips and everything. So I'm going to show you a few kind of very simple techniques that are basically the bread and butter of kind of everything that you're going to do as a producer. It all pretty much comes down to audio editing. So what I'm going to do here is just go take a drum loop. Let's see if I can get one of the KJ drum loops. I'll see if my library is still recovering from wiping my computer to nothing and back. Here, I'm gonna turn that mic down. Hopefully the mic volume's there. Good. It's good now. Okay, so let's see. Let's see if I got any KJ beats. Yeah, samples. Let's see. It's just KJ. Let's see if I got any KJ beats in my samples. Yes. Okay. Cool. All right. So I'm just gonna get. Oh, his loops are so good, man. There we go. That's a beat that I can handle listening to for the duration of this tutorial. Okay, so KJ Saka, if you don't know, get to know. He's one of my best friends. He's probably the best drummer in EDM ever, and he's a really, really fucking just a sweetheart of a human being. He also teaches Ableton. He has a KJ Saka club where you can get all kinds of very cool drum loops and things, and he has all these different drum kits, and he's just like Mr. Drums. Okay, so if you don't have KJ Saka drums in your library, you're missing out. Okay, so KJ is the man. Shouts out KJ. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you a little bit about how all of the different warp modes and everything work in Ableton. But this is a tutorial that is, you know, we're going to be going over some pretty basic skills, but we're also going to be going over some pretty advanced stuff. Okay, so yeah, so even if you feel you're familiar with audio editing, you still need to know this stuff. Okay, so on a track, anytime you see one of these little triangles, you can expand something so that you can expand the tracks there. You can expand and collapse the device and clip view here. You can expand and collapse the info view there. You know, the browser up here. Anytime you see one of those triangles, you can expand a thing. And that's really important because basically whenever the track is not expanded, when you click on the clip, you're selecting and moving the clip. When you click on the title bar up there, and then if you want to do an edit, like let's say you want to copy and paste, you have to select on the waveform and hit copy and paste. And then you can copy and paste on the actual waveform, okay? So if you want to do any audio editing, you got to have this thing expanded, okay? So then if you've ever written an email, you know, cut, copy, paste, etc., they all work basically how you'd expect. And you can pretty much write tracks just by moving audio around and putting the right piece of audio in the right spot. When I got my first record deal, that was literally the extent of my skill set. I knew how to cut and paste and copy, just pencil, eraser, scissors. That was it. Those were all of the tools in my arsenal, and I managed to get a record deal and get music out and start my career. Okay, so if you've written an email, you know how that works, right? So now you can select a range here and then drag up on the title bar to move around. You can drag the end brackets and beginning brackets of the title bar to move the clips around. So anytime you want to select the whole clip and move it, grab the title bar, or if you want to make it longer or shorter or move the beginning or end, you grab the title bar. Anytime you want to actually, you know, take a slice or copy or whatever, you can copy and paste. Okay, so one command that you should know that is different than you know, writing an email is the edit command, Command E, and what that does is it splits the clip into two, and then you can make two clips. Okay, so that's really, really important. I'm going to show you a few other really kind of key commands as well. But what we need to talk about now is warping. Okay, so you see the track is at 85 BPM. Warping is going to make it so that the clip is going to stay at the BPM that Ableton, like the master tempo, which is up there in the top left. Okay, so warping is basically time stretching, or, you know, like looping the audio to the BPM that you are using. So when I play here, if I speed this up, right? So then Ableton will warp the piece of audio to match whatever BPM that I'm working at, right? So there's a bunch of different ways you can do that, right? Like, check it out. If we were to take a record player and do this, it would be like using repitch mode. So I'm going to use repitch mode here and then move it around. You'll notice that as the BPM goes up and down, the actual pitch, like the tuning of the drums, is going up and down. So it's very high pitched when it's fast, and very low pitched. Okay, so that's kind of like you're increasing a tape speed, or, you know, increasing or lowering the speed on a pitch on a record player. Like, let's say you were DJing on a Technics 1200 turntable, like, you know, hip hop style, you would be, you know, changing the pitch like that. Okay, so to understand what all the different warp modes do, I find it's best to just bring it all the way down. Okay, so now we can hear repitch mode is very slow, right? So there's different kinds of warp modes. Beats mode, what Beats mode is doing is Beats mode is taking little slices of your sample, okay? And you can see where it's slicing here. There's these little gray little arrows, right? Those represent what's called a transient, okay? So now transient is not just like a homeless person. It is the initial attack phase of the sound. So it's that first flick of the speaker going pop, 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 right? very, very important to preserve your transients, right? So if you put it on Beats Mode is going to take a slice for each of these transients and then play the slice, okay? So I'll put it on, so there's these different modes here, preserve. There's several different kinds of slicing, okay? So if you put preserve to play forward and stop, this will illustrate very clearly what Beats Mode is doing. So one slice, there's the next slice. So you can hear each one of those little gray things is playing forwards and stopping, okay? Next to that, there's this percentage, and this acts as a gate. This thing is very cool. What this means is that if I put it really short, it will make each slice really short, and you'll be able to hear this. Like, let's go back to the original BPM. If I play forwards and stop transient mode with it at 100%, okay, it's not cutting anything out, but if I bring this down, right, that's a natural gate that is built right into the warp mode. So you see how it makes the beat all tiny and like tick, 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 like insect beats? Right? So that is a really useful thing, okay? And then see where it says preserve? Right now it's preserving the transients, so it's just doing where Ableton detects the transients. But you could also, like, let's say you have a tone. I think let's find a long tone. Yeah, okay, let's say this is tone. So you can use this transient mode on tones too, right? So check it out. Let's say I'm going to just double time this a bunch of times until it's all stretched out. Okay, so we have this on Beats Mode. Right, now if I put this Beats Mode and I put it on play forwards and stop, and put it onto 16ths and then start bringing this down, you'll get a gating. Right? Really cool. So you could put it on 30 seconds maybe. Right? And you can kind of resynthesize the sample as like a gatey transform effect. Okay? So, so that's a thing to know about. In Beats Mode, but let's check out some of these other modes. Okay, so we got transients. We're preserving the transients here. Play forward and stop. What happens about the two arrows going forwards? Okay, so that's a loop that is going to continue looping, and it sounds like that kind of grindy loop. Like, check it out. Right, so then I'll slow it down so you can hear what's happening. Right, it's all grindy. So that's making a loop. Because it's filling in the blanks, right? Essentially what's happening is this: if the sample just plays forwards and stops, there's nothing here in between the transients, right? So when you put it to loop, it's going to basically continue looping this transient until it meets the next transient. Then there's this one, which is a ping pong loop, which is cool, and it goes forwards and then backwards. Yeah, you can really hear it on the crashes there. Right, so that's a ping pong loop. So that's, anyway, so that's Beats Mode. Beats Mode gives you the nice crispy transients, and it can be used for gating and stuff like that, but it has like kind of a very specific thing that it does, and that's not always what you want. Okay, so some other warp modes you can use are tones. Is just basically, instead of cutting on each transient, it's going to do what they call grains, and grains are like little tiny samples, and these grains you can specify the size. So let's hear what that sounds like. See, longer samples, you can hear it more like, right? And then if you put it short, you get more of a tone. Right? I don't really use tones that much. It's kind of cool, but if I'm going for that kind of like time stretchy Aphex Twin shit, I'll go for texture mode. So texture mode has a grain size and the flux, and flux is kind of like a pulsing. But check it out. So texture is when you want time stretch artifacts, and it's because sometimes you want that for sound design purposes. So check it out. So long. So the grains are much longer than in tones mode, but then when you go short, crazy sounds. Okay, so you can get some really cool sounds out of that texture mode. Okay, so if you want, and also you can automate inside texture mode too. It's very cool. Repitch we covered already. Complex. The idea behind complex was basically to have a combination of different warp modes, and it would detect what sort of program material you were using. So if your sample was mostly drums, it would use a variation of beats mode. If your sample was mostly tones, it would use a variation of tones mode, etc. And the idea was to kind of dynamically switch the warp modes. I find like complex doesn't really sound that good. You get a lot of these like weird wet MP3 kind of sounding artifacts. Like check it out. Like it's got this kind of metallic MP3 sort of a sound to it. Which I guess under certain conditions is desirable. I don't really find it that desirable. And Ableton then down the line in later versions of Ableton, they licensed an algorithm called Complex Pro. I forget who the original creator of Complex Pro was, but here's Complex Pro. And Complex Pro is really cool because it has this formants feature, which like if you pitch it down, right, it's kind of shifting. The formants are basically like let's say you pitch shift a voice up an octave, it's gonna sound really chunky, but you can make it just sound like the person is singing in their normal voice a higher note. Right, that was the idea behind formants. So it'll just make the pitch shifting sound less dramatic. So I'll put it up an octave, and then I'll adjust the formants, and you'll be able to hear what I mean. So this is it with like, see, that's just straight pitch shifted. But then you turn the formants. You can hear it actually a little bit. Let's get a vocal. You can hear it a bit more on a vocal. I'll get a vocal effect. Okay. So let's say I put this here. Oh yes, these are the gospel samples that I used to do the I'm Eel track. Okay, so yeah, because all those samples were from a royalty-free gospel pack I got from a nice Christian website. Okay, so check it out. This is the pitch shift up. Okay, well here, this is the original sample. Oh wait, let's go back to 70 BPM. What's his name? Jesus. He is so marvelous. Oh God, what a sample. All right, so let's say I were to pitch this up an octave without the formant shifting, like just on the normal complex mode. Sounds really chipmunky, right? But if you put on a Complex Pro with this formants thing on, right? Versus like texture mode. So you see how that's a bit more muffled? So formants is like shifting the frequencies higher to kind of make it sound less unnatural when you do extreme pitch shifts. But if you pitch it down and then put like you balance the formants with the envelope, or like even minus 24. But you can balance those things against each other, and that's how you get like, you know, like when you hear Skrillex do a lot of those like kind of, you know, like reggae voices that sound all super evil and shit. It's from doing these kind of extreme time shifts in or transposes with the formant shifting. But formants. Like formant shifting is just a really cool thing to know about. There's lots of different plugins that will allow you to do formant shifting, but real quick and dirty, like using the formants inside of the inside of the complex mode will allow you to really kind of resynthesize your tracks and do stuff. Now, complex mode actually uses a pretty surprising, like all this warping stuff uses a pretty surprising amount of processor. Like check it out. Like that's just one clip, and it's using like 10% of my processor. Like it uses a lot of processor to do these warpings, and I find one feature of the new drum racks, just as an aside for the more advanced users, one feature of the new drum racks that drives me a bit crazy is all of the samplers, they'll default to warping a clip, right? So that means that it's applying this warp inside the drum rack, and if you leave this warping on inside the drum rack, it uses a hell of a lot of CPU just to like run a drum rack. So I would recommend definitely turning warping off. Those of you who are more advanced users who are using drum racks, I would recommend turning warping off inside your drum racks, because it can really, it can really become a heavy load on your processor. So basically, a lot of things that you do in life in Ableton have a heavy processor load, and one of the best ways that you can get around that is by resampling. And when you resample yourself, you can really kind of use a lot of these warp modes and stuff to make your sounds into just totally new sounds. So let's take this drum loop and use it to make a bunch of other sounds, and then just see what happens. Okay, so I'm once again gonna go to my drum loop here, and I'm just gonna put on texture mode, and now I'm gonna sample to another channel. Okay, so made a second channel, so I call this sampled, and then this will be called drum loop. Okay, and then here in this audio input output field, right, it's the same in session view as it is in arrange view. In this audio input output field, you can tell one channel to take audio from, right, that's this field, and that's the same in arrange view, even though it doesn't say audio from next to it, it's the same in arrange view. You can tell it to take audio from the drum loop there, and if I arm recording on this channel, now when this channel is recording, it will record the audio from the other channel. And you can see, like, when I hit play, you can see the audio coming in. It's grayed out now because I'm not recording, but you can see the audio coming from one channel into another channel. So I'm going to record now, and I'm just going to mess around with some settings and make some sounds. Oh, God. Okay, come on. What is going on? Why is it record? There we go. Okay, so let's change the warp mode to texture. Right, so I'm just generating chaos right now, essentially, and that's. So I just hit the reverse button. There's a reverse button. It's right here. That's the reverse button. Okay, cool. So now I've generated a bunch of material here, right? And this is a long sample that has a bunch of potentially usable things that we can edit to make a song. So let's see what we can do here. So I want to look and see if I can find some kind of interesting tones to go with this drum beat. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, let's say I'm just going to put. I just want to find a tone to go right on the first downbeat. So what I'm going to do now, right, is I'm going to take this sample and I'm going to duplicate it with the command D. Okay, duplicate, very important. And now I'm going to turn the volume all the way down and make it a different color. So now this is going to be a bookend. This is what we call a bookend. Okay, and this bookend is going to allow you to scrub inside of the sample of material that we made. Okay, and what that means is that I can drag this around and change what is going to appear on that first beat of the sound without making a huge long sample. So check it out. I'm going to delete the bookend. I'll show you what happens. Like, let's say I drag without it. Look, I'm filling the whole thing full of sound. That's not necessarily what I want, right? I just want to scrub it. I just want to define where that sample is. So I'm going to put the bookend, and then I'm going to go in and scrub against the bookend. And I mean, you can technically hold Alt and do it, but it always is kind of annoying. So I find using this bookend technique a lot better. Oh wait, here, let's stop all these clips. So let's see if I can find something that's like a bass. That sounds kind of like it could be a tone. Okay, so here, let's go back to 85 BPM here. Okay, so now let's pitch this thing down. See how that sounds kind of like a bass with the filter opening? Right? So let's use that. And now let's try it in the context of beat. Okay, that sounds cool. What if we make this a... Let's bring it down 5 semitones. So the magic numbers when you're pitch shifting things, if you want them to be musically in tune, the magic numbers are 5 and 7, okay? So down 5 gets you to the 5th of the scale, and then up 5 gets you to the 4th of the scale. Down 7 gets you to the 4th of the scale, up 7 gets you to the 5th, okay? And the melodic reasons for that, I explain in lots of my other videos, but just trust me, magic numbers are plus or minus 5. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so now we got... And then, so boom, boom. Actually, you know what? I'm going to pitch these all up an octave. So now if you want to pitch things up an octave, hold shift and press up. Right, now we got like a little bit of melody happening. Bring the... And then... Excuse me, a little hoarse. Yeah. So... So now we got a little melody happening. Okay, so now let's make a riser. Okay, so this is, we're going to get into the sampler now. I'm going to take the little simpler. I'm going to take our sample of material here, put it in, take it off of warp, remember, because that uses a lot of CPU. And then I'm going to make a tight little loop here inside the sampler and put it on classic mode, turn the loop on, right? And then I want to make like a real short little loop here. So make this loop short with the length. Snap makes it snap to the zero crossing so you don't get that clicking. You hear this clicking? Snap gets rid of the clicking. Okay. So now I'm going to take my release on the envelope down and I'm going to make us a riser. So here, let's take this whole section, duplicate, Command D, same command that I used to duplicate before. Let's make the second half of this have a riser. So I'm going to go Command Shift M to create a MIDI clip. Right, and then there is a MIDI clip. So now this is going to play our sample, which is going to loop here. Right, now if I want to make a riser, I can go into the transposition, right click. The transposition is like the pitch, right? So if I right click on that and then go show modulation, not show automation, show modulation. The modulation is inside the clip. Then I can put a little dot of automation, well, modulation, inside here, and I go up 2 octaves. And now we've resynthesized that drum loop into a riser. Okay, most people make their risers too loud. I like to put a little bit of reverb on risers too. It just kind of softens them, puts them a bit more in the back of the mix, because risers can be too loud very easily. Right, now we got a riser. Right, we could also potentially take this same sampler, right, bring it here, and then let's make like a arpeggiator kind of thing. Okay, so if I go into my MIDI clips here, I'm going to take an arpeggiator and put the steps up like that, put this down like that, right? So you can be like, right? So you remember, magic numbers, 5 and 7 semitones. So I'm going to put a MIDI clip in here. Okay, so there's our root. Okay, so that one's going to be on the root. And then if I want to make this one match this one, I go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I'm going to make it match this one. So I'm going to go down 6, 7. Okay. Then duplicate all those. So remember what I was saying before, you select by clicking on the clip up at the top of the title bar, and then Alt and drag allows, it's like a copy drag, and then here, this one, I'm going to go Command E for edit, right, which is splitting that, and then Shift and up, which is up 12. Okay, so now I've made this arpeggiator riff that is going to go. Right? Pretty cool. So let's say I want to sample this now, right? What would I do? Create a new channel. Tell it to take audio from track 3, which is 001 sampled, arm the record. Then I'd go here. Right? Oh, Peter asked, what's the difference between modulation and automation? Automation is in the arrange view, modulation is in the clip view, and automation tends to make things messy and awkward, whereas modulation is fucking amazing. So anything that's going to be part of the pattern or part of the groove of the thing, you would do in modulation, and then anything that's like a kind of slow change that happens over like a whole section or whatever, you'd do in automation. Okay, so now I'm going to mute this channel because we have this sampled. We've just sampled ourselves, and I'm going to show you a couple little things you can do here. So here's our riff, right? But I want it to go really fast here on this last note. So I'm going to put a cut there, right? And I'm going to take it off of warp, and I'm going to hit reverse again. Whoop! Now it's backwards. And then I'm going to go like this, put that as the start, and then pitch up 12. And you see how it makes a little cool glitchy fill? So whenever you have things, or you know, you could have it be, let's reverse just this part. So go like that and then reverse. So now, oh, that sounds a little awkward. Let's move that over. Yeah, because sometimes when you reverse, it's kind of like, It's a bit too much, or a bit, if the notes don't fall where they... Yeah, just kind of articulates things a bit just by, you know, by chopping them up. Like here, we could go like, take this, reverse that whole section, move that forwards just a bit. Right? So now let's try and make this a little bit less dorky. What if we time stretch just a bit here? So I'm going to go half time, double time, right? These are clip parameters. See now. So what if we put time stretch this one, and let's put this one onto tones mode or texture mode. Right? Right? You can just add all these little articulations to your riffs that make everything kind of flow and like sound a bit more polished and a bit more like produced and stuff, right? But yeah, get to know all these warp modes, get fast at cutting and pasting and moving things around, get fast at resampling, and you don't really need to know too much. Like you can write a track just with audio editing if you use these basic skills. So one more thing I want to do here is I want to make another clip, and I'm going to take our long clip of material here, and I'm going to mute all this stuff. So hit 0, right? And 0 deactivates everything. And I'm going to put a cut here, Command E, select 0, and I'm going to make a little like I want to have like a sound that happens just at the end that's like one of these crazy glitches. Okay, cool. So now, if I take this, right, I'm going to put it on warp, and I'm going to go into the automation, which you get out with this little E, and clip transposition, right? And the transpose, once again, that's what we use to make risers. So I'm going to go like that, and then put this on texture. Okay, where's some transpose modulation? Yeah, here we are. Right, and you can make these cool little fills and stuff too, and like just little glitches and whatever. But yeah, so you can see audio editing is pretty much all you really need to know to make a track. And the faster you can get it, like cutting, pasting, flipping things backwards, pitch shifting, resampling, moving them around, that is really like the basic thing to learn if you're gonna start anywhere. And then from there you'd want to make sure you have your gain structure, like learn leveling, because like everybody thinks they need to know about EQ and compression. Honestly, just like getting the sounds at the right volumes goes so far in terms of your mix. All right, so I got my class in 20 minutes. I want to go make sure all my PowerPoint slides are in order. But yeah, if you liked what you saw here today and you want to get access to the other 27 weekly downloads, it's only $5 a week. And if you go to theweeklydownload.com/start, you can get the weekly download. And if you go to the pinned link, you can come to my free arranging class that I'm about to host. But yeah, mad shouts out to everybody who supports me with the weekly download and at Patreon, and especially at my Producer DJ Club. Shouts out to everyone who does kick it down financially, because, my time's not free and I could be writing music. It's like I have 3 gigs this weekend, so I could be writing music. But instead I'm choosing to teach you, not only out of the kindness of my heart, but also because people support me and encourage me to do it. So those of you who do support me financially, I really appreciate it. You make all of this possible. If you do want to be one of those cool homies who supports me and makes this possible, go to theweeklydownload.com/start. All right, I'm done. I'm done hawking shit now. I'm going to go get ready for my other class. I will see you soon. Oh, nice. Stuart Sackler going deep with the pun game. Pun game is strong, Stuart. Okay, cool. So I'm going to get ready to do my class. It is next. But yeah, that's the second weekly download this week. That's number 28. All right, peace out. Oh, yeah, and if you're in Red Deer, Edmonton, or Calgary, you got some pretty fearsome shows this week. I'm going to be testing out the new Kung Fu remix as well as a bunch of other stuff. All right, lots of love, and I will see those of you who've signed up for the class in 20 minutes, and we'll learn about arranging. Peace out.